You will never conquer the world until you first conquer yourself. And let me be perfectly clear. The world you're meant to conquer is not out there. It is in here. It is the terrain between your ears, the battlefield behind your eyes, the throne you refuse to occupy inside your own mind. That is where greatness begins or ends. That is where empires rise or collapse in silence. Do not be deceived by outward circumstances. A man can inherit riches and die in mediocrity. Another can be born in chains and rise to rule himself with the discipline of a king. The dividing line is not fortune, it is not talent, it is not even education. The dividing line is mental mastery. And mental mastery begins the moment you kill the version of yourself that reacts. Yes, that old self, the one who gets offended easily, who pleads for approval, who panics at discomfort, who chases dopamine instead of destiny, that self must die. Because as long as he lives, your future belongs to him, and he is not fit to rule. This is not a speech for the faint-hearted. This is a death sentence for your excuses. This is a declaration of war on your passivity. If you came here looking for motivation without accountability, you're in the wrong room. But if you came here because you are tired of being ruled by emotion, by impulse, by fear and fickle thought, then welcome, sit upright, clear your mind. Because what you're about to hear may alter the trajectory of your entire life. Let us begin with a principle so potent it should be carved into every mirror. No man is free who cannot command his emotional state. You can build a business, a following, a reputation, but if you are a slave to anger, envy, distraction, or the approval of others, you are still in chains. Emotional reactivity is the leash that tames great men into mediocrity. You bark when called. You sit when criticized. You retreat when challenged. And worst of all, you confuse this for being real. It is not real to be ruled by your feelings. It is natural, but it is not noble. It is familiar, but it is not powerful. To be real is to master yourself in the fire of your own emotion. To pause when the old self would panic. To speak with intention when the old self would lash out. To wait when the old self would beg for attention. That is strength. That is sovereignty. Understand this. You are not your emotions. You are the observer of them. And the one who observes has the power to choose his response. Response versus reaction. This is the first gate. The undisciplined man reacts. He is tugged by the strings of circumstance like a puppet. A rude comment ruins his day. A delay sends him spiraling. A single doubt kills his momentum. Why? Because he has not trained the only muscle that matters, his ability to choose his state, regardless of conditions. Do not gloss over this. It is not a trick. It is not a hack. It is a law, what I call the law of mental neutrality. And it states this: he who remains neutral in mind remains sovereign in life. What does neutrality mean? It means you no longer give automatic access to your power. You do not flinch at insult. You do not drown in praise. You do not collapse into stress. You observe and you choose. That is detachment. Not coldness, not apathy, but inner clarity. Detachment is the throne of kings. It allows you to hear without absorbing, to feel without collapsing, to act without hesitation. The detached man is not emotionless. He is focused. He does not allow small events to control his large vision. Think of the most successful people in history. The real builders, the revolutionaries, the masters of industry and invention. Do you believe they succeeded because they never felt fear? Number? They felt it and moved anyway. They did not let fear vote. They did not let doubt speak louder than decision. They had what I call definiteness of purpose, the ability to remain fixed on the outcome, regardless of emotional weather. And that purpose, that clarity of vision, is forged in silence. It is forged in moments when you tell your mind, you do not get to panic. You do not get to distract. You do not get to sabotage. I am in command now. And every time you override an emotional impulse with conscious direction, you carve a new channel in the mind, a new groove of power. And over time, those grooves become highways of discipline, of poise, of mental dominion. But this does not happen by chance. It happens by choice, 1,000 small choices when no one is watching. Discipline is not a punishment. It is the highest form of self-respect. It is the proof that you believe in your own future enough to act for it, not just dream about it. And without discipline, detachment is impossible. Because if your mind cannot obey you in private, it will betray you in public. The mind is like fire. It can warm your life or burn it to the ground. And fire left unchecked consumes. But fire directed, that is how civilizations are built. So let me ask you plainly, do you control your fire or does it control you? Do you act with intention or do you react with regret? Do you think deliberately or do you borrow thoughts from the nearest voice? Because here's the truth, no one wants to say out loud most people are not thinking. They are remembering. They are replaying emotional loops. They are reacting to stimuli programmed into them years ago. And they call that being real. But there is nothing real about being a prisoner of yesterday's programming. Realness is forged in the now, in the crucible of deliberate thought, in the discipline to pause, observe, detach, and decide not with the old self, but with the one you are building. And who is that self? He is calm when others are panicked. He is focused when others are scrolling. He is deliberate when others are drifting. He is the master of his moods, the sculptor of his schedule, the builder of his inner world. That man that you is waiting on the other side of your excuses. And the old self, the impulsive one, the reactive one, the victim of emotion must be buried. Kill him, mourn him if you must, but bury him, because as long as you carry him into your future will look like your past. You must understand this. Your thoughts are not just private fantasies. They are architectural blueprints. What you think, you shape. What you rehearse in mind, you rehearse in destiny. The average man lives as if thoughts are harmless things, as if his mood, his doubt, his invisible rage are shadows without consequence. But make no mistake, thought is causation, thought is construction, thought is prophecy. And the man who cannot master his thoughts will build a future that mirrors his confusion. The principle is simple. You become what you habitually think. Your dominant mental pattern writes your fate in ink. If you constantly rehearse anger, you will live in conflict. If you dwell in inferiority, you will shrink from opportunity. If you focus your mind on lack, you will be blind to abundance. This is not magic. This is not mystery. This is mind. You are not a leaf in the wind. You are the wind itself. But only when you decide to stop reacting and start governing. And governance begins with observation. The man who watches his thoughts without judgment, without panic, begins the first act of mastery. He sees his rage before it erupts. He notices the fear before it hijacks. He hears the lie before it is spoken. And in that space between impulse and action, he finds power. Understand this. There is a difference between having a thought and becoming it. The average man becomes every thought he has. He believes every emotion is a command. He believes every mood must be obeyed. But you, if you are serious about mastery, must rise above that. A thought is a suggestion, not an order. An emotion is a visitor, not a king. And when you learn to see the mind as a field of visitors, not rulers, you reclaim your throne. You become the gatekeeper, the one who permits or denies, the one who cultivates or expels. That is detachment. And detachment is not the absence of emotion, it is the refusal to be enslaved by it. I speak now to the man who wakes up tired, not because his body is weak, but because his mind is at war. He opens his eyes and is assaulted by unfinished tasks, unresolved resentments, invisible fears. His feet haven't touched the ground, but already he is drowning in internal noise. Why? Because his mind is untrained, because his thoughts have no commander, because his inner world is a democracy of chaos. But a man on the path to mastery cannot afford that. He must train his mind like a warrior sharpens his blade daily, ruthlessly, precisely. He must sit in silence, not as an escape, but as a discipline. He must write his thoughts, not to admire them, but to expose their flaws. He must monitor his self-talk like a banker watches gold, because every word is an investment in identity. This is not motivational talk. This is economic law. Every thought you entertain becomes emotional currency. If you spend recklessly indulging anger, victimhood, gossip, comparison, do not be surprised when your account is bankrupt. But if you invest in clarity, in peace, in purpose, in focused repetition of greatness, then the compound interest will be destiny itself. Let us talk now about the misunderstood power of autosuggestion. Not the childish notion of speaking empty affirmations into a mirror, but the scientific psychological process of embedding intention into the subconscious mind through repeated, emotionally charged thought. Autosuggestion is the means by which you tell your deeper self what to believe. And once it believes, it builds. If you tell yourself daily, with force and clarity, I am unshakable, I am focused, I command my mind, I master my time, I act from intention, not emotion, then slowly, invisibly, but inevitably your inner world obeys. Your subconscious mind, which governs your habits, your tone, your posture, your response, will bend. And as it bends, so bends the world around you. But if you do nothing, if you leave the mind to drift, it will default to survival, not greatness. It will seek comfort, not conquest. It will replay wounds, not wisdom. The untrained mind is not neutral. It is a magnet for distraction and defeat. You must shape it daily, with intensity, with words, with clarity of vision. And that vision must be anchored in what Napoleon Hill called definiteness of purpose. A man without a purpose will always be ruled by his pain. But a man with a purpose defined, written, emotionally connected will walk through fire without flinching, because pain, when aligned to purpose, becomes fuel. But pain without purpose becomes poison. You must ask yourself with brutal honesty, what am I here to build? What legacy do I seek to leave? What am I willing to suffer for, and what shall I no longer tolerate? The man who answers these questions with depth begins to wake up. He begins to see that emotional detachment is not about being numb, it's about being too focused to be distracted, too committed to be swayed, too disciplined to be delayed by the trivial. Discipline is not a mood. It is a decision made daily, acted on hourly, reaffirmed moment by moment. It is the voice that says, "This is who I am," and no fleeting emotion, no passing judgment, no external pressure will make me forget. That is the voice of a king. And kings do not whine. Kings do not gossip. Kings do not plead for sympathy. They act, they rise, they endure, and they win first in silence, then in the world. You must now decide. Will you live as a subject to your own mind or as its master? Will you serve the impulses of yesterday's self, or will you command today's decision to create tomorrow's excellence? Because here is the truth, that the undisciplined man never learns until it is too late. The war is always within, and the victor is always the one who governs his inner world. The greatest prison is the one without bars, the prison of mental reaction. And the most tragic part? Most people never realize they're locked inside. They laugh, they scroll, they attend meetings, they even succeed, but inwardly, they are ruled by invisible chains. A single insult can ruin their peace. A bad day can destroy a year's worth of discipline. A negative opinion from a stranger can derail a vision crafted in solitude. This is not freedom. This is emotional enslavement. And no man who remains a slave to emotion will ever build a legacy worth remembering. The man who desires mastery must first accept a hard truth. You are responsible for your state of mind no matter what happens to you. Not your boss, not your upbringing, not your partner, you. If you surrender your state of mind to anyone else, you have already given away the keys to your kingdom. You have forfeited your throne to the winds of opinion and circumstance. True power begins the day you say, "No more. I will no longer live at the mercy of moods, critics, setbacks, or praise. I will govern myself because I am the only one qualified to do so." This is where mental discipline takes root, and it must take root or your potential will rot. You see, mental discipline is not about suppression. It is not about smiling while you suffer. It is about choosing the correct response with intention. It is about anchoring yourself in values, not vibrations. It is the ability to hold the line even when every part of you wants to flee, to lash out, to shrink. It is the ability to say, "This situation does not dictate who I am. My habits do. My character does. My decision in this moment defines me, and I choose to remain powerful." That is how a man becomes a builder, not of wealth alone, but of destiny, because nothing is built on shaky foundations. And if your foundation, your mind, is reactive, emotional, distracted, then your empire will collapse in silence, no matter how high it climbs. Let me offer you a principle you must engrave into your inner world. The outer world reflects the state of the inner world, always. If your environment is chaotic, it is because your thoughts are chaotic. If your relationships are unstable, it is because your inner beliefs are unstable. If your finances are a mess, it is because your priorities and discipline are misaligned. This is not blame. This is power. Because when you own the inner cause, you own the outer effect. You stop waiting. You stop pleading. You stop outsourcing your life to luck and start aligning your thoughts like soldiers under command. And what commands them? Vision, clarity, ritual, silence. Yes, silence. The modern man fears silence because it confronts him with himself, and most cannot bear that confrontation. So they distract, they scroll, they consume noise to escape the war within. But the warrior embraces silence because it is in silence that the weak parts of himself are exposed and exiled. Do not run from silence. Enter it, make time for it, structure it into your morning. Sit with your thoughts, examine them. Are they true? Are they worthy of your destiny? Are they inherited or intentional? Most thoughts you think today are not yours. They are echoes. Echoes from family, society, television, and trauma. And unless you purge the unworthy, you will build your life based on another man's failure. This is the sacred duty of the serious man, to clean his inner temple daily, to observe what enters, what remains, what repeats, and to remove anything unworthy of a master. A single unchecked belief can sabotage decades of effort. One inner lie can infect 100 outer actions. You must become a surgeon of your psyche, precise, brutal, wise. Ask, where did this thought come from? Who planted it? Does it serve my highest vision, or does it bind me to the identity I was supposed to outgrow? If it does not serve, cut it. Replace it with truth. And rehearse that truth until it becomes automatic, until it becomes instinct, until it becomes you. This is the principle of thought first. Every act of excellence begins with a mental rehearsal of excellence. Every act of defeat begins with a whisper of doubt. And your mind is always rehearsing something. If you are not directing it, it is defaulting. And the default setting of the undisciplined mind is survival, not greatness. You are not here to survive. You are here to rise. You are here to master the most sacred real estate on earth, your inner world, because from it springs your tone, your walk, your focus, your energy, your results. If you want to change your life, you must stop changing tactics and start changing thoughts. And you change thoughts not by wishful thinking, but by ruthless repetition. Rituals are how great men program greatness into the soul. A strong morning, a clean space, a focused mind, a written vision. These are not luxuries, they are armor. If you are not building armor daily, do not be surprised when the arrows of distraction and emotion pierce your ambition. Structure is salvation, a schedule is spiritual, and discipline is divine. Stop searching for hacks. Return to the law. And the law is this: you do not rise to your dreams, you fall to your patterns. And your patterns are built by what you do repeatedly, especially when you don't feel like it. If you can master your behavior when no one is watching, you will never be ruled by anything that tries to knock you off purpose. So today, kill the part of you that needs to feel like it. Kill the self that needs to be in the mood. Kill the man who waits for motivation. And replace him with a man of decision, a man of order, a man of fire wrapped in silence. Because when your inner world is governed, your outer world bends. And in a world ruled by reaction, a man who chooses his thoughts becomes a god among the lost. You were never meant to be ruled by anything you cannot see. And yet, how many men walk this earth shackled to invisible masters? They dress in success, but inside they serve envy, fear, resentment, and the silent urge to be liked. They call this ambition. They call it hustle. But it is not purpose. It is bondage with polish. You must no longer bow to these unseen tyrants, because no man can serve two masters. You cannot serve your future and your feelings at the same time. One must obey, one must submit. And if you are serious about achievement, if you are no longer playing with your potential, then your feelings must become your servants, not your sovereigns. Let us now speak of the danger of needing approval, for it is the most subtle poison of all. You can build an empire, yes, but if you need applause to validate your decisions, you are building on sand. You can be gifted, charismatic, intelligent, but if one opinion can break your momentum, you are still mentally fragile. The man who needs to be liked has already surrendered his mission to the moods of others. You cannot afford this. If you are to lead, and every man is called to lead himself, then your clarity must be immune to consensus. Your fire must be lit by vision, not validation. The world does not need more agreeable men. It needs more men who have died to the need to please. Because only those who are detached from approval are free to speak truth, build boldly, and walk alone. Understand this now. You must become immune to praise. Yes, immune to praise. Why? Because the man who feeds off applause must also starve in its absence, and that is weakness. It is not enough to be unmoved by critics. You must also be unmoved by fans, because both are illusions, and both can chain you if you forget who you are. You must know yourself so deeply that no external reaction alters your direction. You must be able to say, "This is who I am, this is what I do, this is why I rise," and no applause, no insult, no temporary storm will make me forget that. That is mental discipline. That is internal gravity. And internal gravity is rare. Most people live by emotional gravity pulled by the next feeling, the next headline, the next distraction. But the man who governs his mind becomes a planet. Others orbit around him. He does not chase, he attracts. He does not plead, he commands. And he does not react, he decides. Now let us refine the principle further. Detachment is not about withdrawal. It is about command. It is not removing emotion, it is ruling it. The detached man does not become robotic, he becomes deliberate. He feels deeply, but chooses wisely. He allows the storm, but he builds in silence. So I ask you, can you observe your own anger without becoming it? Can you sit with your fear and speak to it like a king speaks to a servant? Can you act from vision while your old self panics in the background? This is the test, and you will face it daily. Life will hand you insult, delay, failure, betrayal. And every time, the question will return. Who decides what this means, the old self or the new one? Because this is the hidden war, the war between the self that reacts and the self that rules. And that war is not fought in public. It is fought in the quiet moments, in the hesitation before you lash out, in the pause before you procrastinate, in the space between distraction and decision. That is the battlefield of kings. You do not win it once, you win it daily, with repetition, with attention, with choices that seem small but are in fact sacred, because the man who conquers the small can be trusted with the great. Let us now speak of calmness not as a mood, but as a weapon. Calmness is the fortress of the master. It is the mental armor that shields your vision from the flames of panic. Calmness is not passivity. It is not weakness. It is power withheld until precision is required. The undisciplined man equates loudness with strength. He must be seen. He must be heard. He must react, but the master remains still. He waits, he watches, and when he moves with finality. This is the principle of non-reaction. Learn it, practice it, respect it. When they insult you, be still. When life delays you, be still. When your emotions demand action, be still. And in that stillness, clarity will rise. Right action will reveal itself. And your enemies, internal or external, will exhaust themselves against the wall of your stillness. To be calm under fire is not a talent. It is a trained response, and it is the mark of mental greatness. And mental greatness is what you were born for, not fame, not attention, but command, inner command. The ability to say, I know who I am, I know what I build, and I will not negotiate that truth with temporary emotions. This is the mature mind. This is the immortal mindset, and it is forged in discipline, not motivation. Motivation is the fuel of the beginner. Discipline is the fire of the master. So now, you must choose. Do you want to be entertained by your emotions, or do you want to be elevated by your control? One leads to the old self, loud, reactive, forgettable. The other leads to your destiny, silent, focused, untouchable. Kill the first, build the second, and never look back. If a man waits to be told what to do, he is already beneath the level of his potential. This is the truth of personal initiative, one of the rarest qualities in a world addicted to being managed. The average man requires permission to become himself. He waits for the perfect moment, the right support, the validation of peers. But success lasting, soul-rooted success does not wait for conditions to be perfect. It waits for nothing. It is claimed by the man who moves first, who leads himself before others recognize the path. Let me make it painfully clear. If you need motivation to begin, you are not yet serious. If you need someone to check in, to follow up, to hold your hand, you are still ruled by the old self. The new self does not need permission. He gives orders to his body, to his mind, to his schedule. He wakes himself, he disciplines himself, he corrects himself. That is sovereignty. You must become your own authority. The day you decide to act on your convictions without applause, without reminders, without a crowd, that day you graduate from average to immortal, because personal initiative is how you leave behind the herd. It is how you rise in silence while others wait for signs. The man of initiative is never caught begging for opportunity, he creates it. And even if the world refuses him once, twice, 10 times, he never stops acting. Why? Because he is detached from outcome. He is loyal to vision. And vision does not require evidence, only execution. Execution without emotion. That is where miracles occur. Because your mind will betray you daily. It will whisper doubt, excuse fatigue, but your legs will move anyway. Your voice will speak anyway. Your hands will build anyway. That is the discipline of detachment. That is how mountains are moved, not by feelings, but by motion. Do not misunderstand. This is not about becoming cold. This is about becoming clear. Clear about what you want, clear about who you are, clear about what you will no longer tolerate from yourself. The undisciplined mind is filled with emotion, but devoid of decisions. The disciplined mind is filled with decisions and thus controls emotion. You must become dangerous to your distractions. You must become lethal to the old identity, the one who snoozes alarms, the one who checks messages before checking his mission, the one who fears judgment more than failure. That man must die, not gently, but forcefully. You will not evolve by soothing your insecurities. You will evolve by confronting them. Drag them into the light, name them, and then take action in direct opposition to them. That is how you build the new self, not by reading, but by rebellion. Daily, disciplined rebellion against every thought, every habit, every emotion that serves your lower self. The lower self avoids pain. The higher self uses it. The lower self craves ease. The higher self creates pressure and thrives within it. The lower self wants to be understood. The higher self seeks only to be effective. Understand this. You are not here to be understood. You are here to build. You are here to transform vision into structure, intention into outcome. And you do that not through talk, but through the quiet, relentless practice of personal sovereignty. That means you set your own rules. You uphold your own standards. You move when no one sees you. You win battles no one knows you're fighting. And because of that, your victories will be permanent. Permanent victory is built on private warfare. So I ask you now, are you willing to fight in silence? Are you willing to live like a monk and move like a general? Are you willing to feel misunderstood, unseen, uncelebrated, and yet act with the conviction of a man who knows he is building the future? Because if you need witnesses, you are still a performer. But if you need only your vision, you are a creator. And creators are untouchable. They are not moved by trends. They are not thrown by criticism. They are not confused by chaos. Because they have built within themselves a center, a still place, untouched by the world. That is what you must build. A mental state that cannot be shaken, a system that cannot be broken, a fire that cannot be dimmed. And it begins with the choice to no longer negotiate with weakness. The moment you feel the old self rising, the one that avoids, the one that whines, the one that doubts, you must attack with action, with structure, with silence. You must deny it oxygen. Do not argue with it. Starve it. Starve the emotion. Feed the discipline. That is the formula. If you are tired, train anyway. If you are unclear, write anyway. If you are behind, start anyway. Because every time you override the old script, you weaken it. And soon it will not speak at all. And when that silence comes, the silence of doubt vanquished, you will hear something else rise inside you. A voice so clear, so precise, so unstoppable that nothing outside of you will ever govern you again. That voice is your birthright. It has been buried beneath years of reaction, but it is still there waiting, waiting for you to stop waiting, waiting for you to act without emotion, to decide without delay, to speak without stuttering over fear. And once it is awakened, truly awakened, it does not go back to sleep. The final lie your old self will whisper before it dies is this: you have time. You do not. Time is not your servant. It is your challenger. It does not slow down for confusion. It does not pause for pain. It does not wait for the moment you feel ready. It moves, with or without your permission. And if you are not in command of your inner world, time will drag you through a life you never chose, never wanted, and cannot escape. This is not fear-mongering. This is arithmetic. You waste 1 hour in emotional reaction, and that is one less hour of destiny built. You delay 1 week because of mental chaos, and that is one less week of excellence practiced. You surrender 1 year to indecision, and that is 1 year your vision has starved while weakness feasts. So I say this now with thunder: kill the version of you that believes he has time. Replace him with a man who understands urgency, not panic, but purpose. A man who acts without asking permission, who wakes before the sun and refuses to end a day in regret, who speaks only what builds, who moves only toward what matters, who carries the weight of his mission with the poise of a lion. You have a mission, and you know it. You may have buried it, you may have ignored it, but it still calls you, in silence, in stress, in every failure that burns deeper than it should. That mission is not about applause. It is not about fame. It is about becoming who you were designed to be before the world distracted you. And to become that man, you must master the final law, the law of inner authority. What is inner authority? It is the point where emotional detachment, mental discipline, accurate thought, and purpose converge into one command. A man with inner authority is no longer moved by temptation. He does not argue with fools. He does not seek agreement before acting. He builds what must be built in silence if necessary, in exile if required. He knows what must be done, and he does it. Inner authority means your vision is louder than your moods. Your identity is louder than your critics. Your values are louder than your wounds. It means you do not explain yourself to those who have not earned the right to question you. It means you do not collapse when misunderstood. It means you are no longer ruled by the unstable weather of emotion. You have become the climate itself. This is the highest level of living. And the path is not easy, but it is available to the disciplined, to the emotionally detached, to the clear, to the relentless. So what must you do? First, write your purpose, not for others, for yourself. Write it daily. Read it when you rise. Speak it into your subconscious with precision. Let your nervous system bathe in it until your cells vibrate with alignment. Let every thought be filtered through it. Let every action reflect it. And if it does not, do not do it. Second, design your days. Chaos is the enemy of kings. Spontaneity is the comfort of amateurs. Design a life so structured, so intentional that laziness starves and excellence thrives. Wake at a set time. Begin with silence, with gratitude, with repetition of power. Then build mentally, physically, spiritually. Then create with thought, with words, with precision. Then reflect not casually, but as a warrior reviews battle. Then rest not as escape, but as preparation. Third, master your triggers. Know them. Disarm them. Replace reaction with ritual. Do not argue with your moods, outwork them. Do not soothe your wounds, surpass them. Do not fear discomfort, eat it for breakfast. The man who can remain calm in chaos will own every room, not with noise, with presence. Fourth, eliminate weakness. I mean this literally. The words you speak that dilute you, eliminate them. The apps you scroll that distract you, eliminate them. The people you allow to speak into your doubt, eliminate them. This is not cruelty, it is clarity. You cannot afford to feed weakness and expect strength to grow. Fifth, respect pain. Do not run from it. Learn from it. Welcome it like a messenger. Pain only screams when it is ignored. But the disciplined man listens early to fatigue, to resentment, to hesitation, and he investigates. Not emotionally, intellectually. Because all pain contains intelligence. And if you listen closely, it will tell you what must change. Finally, rehearse the new self until it becomes instinct. Write as him, walk as him, speak as him, dress, think, breathe as him. You are not faking it, you are forming it. Repetition is creation. Repetition is resurrection. And you must resurrect the version of you that never bowed, never flinched, never doubted. He is still in there, under the layers of compromise, buried beneath the dust of hesitation, and he is waiting for you to stop performing weakness and start embodying power. This is your call, not just to think differently, but to become different, to abandon the version of you that needed to explain his ambition, that hesitated when the world laughed, that overthought himself into failure, that avoided silence because it told him the truth. Kill that man and rise. You are not soft, you are undisciplined. You are not weak, you are distracted. You are not confused, you are disconnected from your mission. Fix it ruthlessly today, because the world does not need another emotional reactor. It needs a force, a man so forged in detachment, discipline, and thought that he becomes unshakable. Be that man, the one who does not flinch in crisis, the one who walks alone if he must, the one who chooses values over validation, clarity over chaos, thought over feeling, truth over comfort every time. Build that man in silence. Let him grow in private. And when the world finally sees him, it will be too late to stop him, because the man who rules himself has already won.